thought that the chapter on greed, chapter 4, being imprisoned by greed, is really so important that I try to approach it in a different way, because I struggled with greed so much in my life. Unskillful greed, the kind of greed that got me into a lot of trouble. And it actually took me years to recover from that addictive quality of greed, which for me, it was so toxic that I had to spend years and years unraveling and undoing the conditioning and the mindset and that fear of scarcity around not feeling enough, not being enough, and not doing enough. That led me to this ferocious desire, rapturous desire to attach and cling on to material things to boost up my sense of self-worth. And because I went through that process of letting go to the extent that I can, I discovered that there wasn't just something that I was affected with called individual greed, but I was noticing that there was the greeds of all kinds, you know, and I talk about this in the book. There's corporate greed, there's national greed, there's collective greed, which is the worst kind, because when you get enough people contracting and getting stuck around that scarcity mindset, kind of a fear-based mindset, and you know, you get collective greed, which is the worst kind of greed. And that's when you get all these people in corporations or people in certain communities thinking that they need to hoard and accumulate way more than they need, that could lead them to happiness. What I really want to focus on this chapter is to, again, bring up the question of where is it that you feel contracted and stuck around your own greed. Not just greed around attachment to scarcity and to, you know, that fear-based mindset, but the opposite of greed as well, which is also an attachment, which is aversion. It's that fear-based mindset, or that habitual pattern of pushing money away and thinking that you don't deserve it, you don't want it, it's no good. It's you're renouncing it in a way that's also kind of leads to suffering. Same kind of suffering as if you were contracting around attaching to things. So here's my question to you. If you notice and check in with yourself right now, where is it that you feel money is flowing into your life, and how is it flowing? And where do you feel money is constricted? Do you feel constriction in your checking account, in your relationship with money? Do you see yourself contracting and going out there and trying to hoard and accumulate way more than you need? You know, Aristotle said something really incredible 2,000 years ago. He talked about the golden mean, that place where once you get there, you have total balance and harmony around exactly how much you need to be happy. And so the golden mean is ultimately what I want to share in this book. Where is it that you can have enough money coming in and enough going out so that your happiness increases to that balanced, happy medium that is exactly where you can live in harmony? And then notice when the golden mean talks about when you have too much money coming in, your happiness actually declines. So you want to get to that balanced point in your life where you have enough money coming in so you don't suffer, but not too much and not to the point where it's not enough, because that also leads to suffering. So can you take the steps necessary to look at your finances and see both the way you contract and get attached to it, and also the way that you feel aversive towards it? What we're going to do in this segment, we're going to have several other segments to explore greed a little bit more in detail, as well as the flip side of greed, which is aversion, and see how we can uncouple and unravel that contraction, that story, and that conditioning through certain practices. One practice that the Dalai Lama talks about, which I love, is contentment. can you find ways to be content with where you're at in your life? Another practice is generosity. If you're feeling, you're taking in too much and you're contracted around attaching yourself, can you give more back to your community? Doing the opposite. If you're feeling aversive, can you consider opening up to money and feeling like it's just another great tool, just like oxygen, that could come in and go out, and you don't need to constrict around it and try to hoard it, just like the way you can't hoard oxygen. You can't breathe in oxygen and say, hey, I can hoard it, and or breathe it out and say I don't want it. You have to find that balance where you can have all of it flowing in harmony. We will continue this discussion in greater detail around this very important topic of greed, because it's affecting all of us out there. You got a lot of collective greed, you got a lot of fear and contraction, and I think we can have a lot of fun talking about it. And check out the book, The Money Anxiety Cure, Path to Financial Wellness. You'll find a lot of great tools and useful tips around skillful, balanced greed. Remember, greed is not necessarily bad. It's the unskillful, unbalanced greed that's really unhealthy, because there's a right place for greed. When people are afraid, as Warren Buffett said, it's okay to be greedy. When people are greedy, it's okay to be afraid. You don't want to go into a marketplace when everybody's greedy and driving prices up and basically follow the herd. And you don't want to be afraid when there's a lot of opportunity and not take advantage of the marketplace. So thank you for tuning in, and we will continue this conversation soon.